Watching TV has changed over time. Streaming has become the new norm. That's why Golden State Media Concepts television podcast dives headfirst to the world of cord cutting. Want to be on the loop of what's hot in Netflix? Or if it's not a preference, what about original shows in Hulu? We've got you covered. Join us as we fill in the blank and talk about movies to stream and what show you should be binging. This is the Golden State Media Concepts television podcast.
Everyone, Happy New Year. I'm your host, Devan Harris. Welcome back to the GSMC TV podcast. I hope everybody has had a very safe and happy New Year. I hope your resolutions have gotten off to the right foot. I'm here broadcasting from my balcony, and it's a beautiful start to the new year. So we have a pretty fun show for you today. We'll be talking a little bit about Disney Plus, and now that The Mandalorian is over, the hype's kind of over, and people are apparently canceling their Disney Plus accounts. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and then we'll talk about a TV show that's coming up. It's airing on cable. It's called Dare Me. It's a teen cheerleading drama adapted from the book series from Meg Abbott. So we have a pretty fun show. We'll also talk about Tiffany Haddish's Black Mitzvah, her new comedy special. But for now, let's jump right into The Mandalorian. So, The Mandalorian just ended, and apparently folks are canceling their Disney Plus accounts because The Mandalorian is over. It's a little bit of background on Disney Plus. It is the Paramount streaming service that launched towards the end of 2020, so debuted on November 2019, November 12th, and it quickly grabbed a large part of the digital marketplace. I'd say 10 million subscribers in one day is a record, if the numbers are right. And it showed no signs of slowing down for a while, albeit it's not even 2 months old. It had a vast library, and just based off of the Marvel and Star Wars properties alone, Disney Plus has been a tsunami. But Disney Plus has tons to draw from. It's a very rich catalog that spans almost 100 years. If you start with Snow White, which was produced in 1937. So rather than make everything available at once, Disney Plus is kind of being smart and rolling out things, month by month, year by year. So as we enter 2020, we can only imagine what Disney Plus is going to surprise us with. And a couple of things that we liked in 2019, all of the Marvel stuff, all of the Star Wars stuff. They had some hit reality shows, Encore and The World According to Jeff Goldblum. They had a teen hit, High School Musical, the series. And we're due to have some pretty good things come out in 2020, which we'll cover later. But basically, Disney Plus, it's designed to be the Disney hub, where you can stream all of Disney's theatrical released movies. For example, Frozen 2 will be streaming next summer, or I guess it's this summer now, it's 2020. So, Mandalorian was the Disney Plus hit. Mandalorian, also known as Star Wars The Mandalorian, is an American space western web television series that premiered on Disney Plus on November 12th, 2019. So the day of its launch, it was set to air, or stream, I guess. So set in the Star Wars universe, the series takes place 5 years after the events of Return of the Jedi and 25 years prior to the events of The Force Awakens, and followed the Mandalorian bounty hunter as he journeyed through the New Republic. So this series was directed by Jon Favreau, He was the creator, head writer, and showrunner. And Dave Filoni was executive producer. It starred Pedro Pascal as the Mandalorian. And there were 8 episodes. They were all dropped. And the second season is now chartered for late 2020. Overwhelmingly positive reviews. Praise for writing, characterization, music, visuals. A little bit of criticism for inconsistency. But fans all over the world unanimously fell in love with Baby Yoda, captured all of our hearts, and now people are canceling their Disney Plus accounts because The Mandalorian is over. What is going on? So apparently, you could say this is just talk, this is just fodder, but people are tweeting everywhere about to cancel my Mandalorian Disney Plus account because The Mandalorian is over. So the app, the stream isn't even 2 months old yet, and people are legitimately canceling after a week. People, as soon as they finished The Mandalorian, they canceled, and it's far too early. I'm sure Disney will jump on this because they don't want to lose their capital. They'll get right on this and advertise. So many great things are coming in 2020. Holes is available now, January 1st. Aladdin is coming out in a couple of days. I will definitely be watching that one. I saw that one in theaters, and that was the movie I was like, okay, I want this one on DVD. Diary of a Future President and The Proud Family. Can't wait for all of those. I will definitely be tuning into The Proud Family. That was one of my favorites as a kid. So is it worth it? Is it worth it to cancel just for a little bit? If you just signed up to watch Star Wars or the original content, the likelihood is that in a little bit less than 2 months, way less than 2 months, not even a month and a half, you've already watched the content that you've signed up for. So I guess there's very little original content to digest now. Lady and the Tramp, Noelle, The Mandalorian, and The World According to Jeff Goldblum have all come and gone, if you've watched them all. So the final season of The Clone Wars is set to arrive in February, and will tide Star Wars fans over until Season 2 of The Mandalorian. But if you've seen everything Disney's produced, there's currently, you're hitting a stale mark right now, as I'm sure many people are doing. But the beauty of a streaming service is that you can leave and rejoin at a later date, and there's plenty on the way. A whole new host of Marvel shows coming out, and a rumored Darth Maul show. So I'm still going to keep my subscription. I'd be interested to hear if any of you guys have canceled now that The Mandalorian has finished. So, whenever we come back, we will be talking a little bit about the new cable TV series, Dare Me. So think Euphoria / Riverdale / every teen drama you could ever get your eyes on. And that's what you have with this adaptation. It's based on Meg Abbott's book series. It's called Dare Me, and it's a cheerleading drama. It's like a teen cheerleading drama. Pretty dark, pretty edgy. So we'll cover that when we come back. Stay right here with the GSMC TV podcast.
Want to know the latest and hottest music hitting the airwaves? Don't be left out. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Music Podcast. Keith keeps you on the loop with everything you need to know from pop, rock, hip-hop, and the top 40. And we'll throw in news of your favorite artists, concert and tour dates, and so much more. Listen no further, because this is the gold standard in music podcast.
Welcome back to the GSMC TV podcast. So, last time we talked a little bit about The Mandalorian and how people are kind of nixing their Disney Plus subscriptions now that it's over. And we're going to switch gears and talk about something that is airing on cable, and that's called Dare Me. that's airing on the Lifetime movie network. So, Dare Me is a new teen drama from the same author, Meg Abbott. And Lifetime's general content is questionable at best. They have, cheesy Lifetime movies. They're kind of a staple. And there's really no lack of edgy teen dramas lately. We have had Riverdale in the past couple of years come out, Euphoria, 13 Reasons Why. We have right now You on Netflix. So there's no lack of this kind of content, but people just seem to keep making it. This is no exception. Dare Me is no exception. So Meg Abbott writes alongside Gina Fattori for this show. She wrote on Dawson's Creek, Gilmore Girls, and Californication. And for Gina Fattori, this writing seems a little bit dark. So set in a Midwestern town, this is the summary. Peering behind the all-American facade, the series dives into the cutthroat world of competitive high school cheerleading. It follows the fraught relationship between two best friends after a new coach, Willa Fitzgerald, who plays the coach, she was in Scream Queens or Scream TV, arrives to bring their team to prominence. While the girls' friendship is put to the test, their young lives are changed forever when a shocking crime rocks their quiet suburban town. Part of a coming-of-age story, part small-town drama, part murder mystery, Dare Me exposes the physical and psychological extremes that some women are willing to endure in order to get ahead. Academy Award-nominated director Steph Green, who directed The Americans, directed and executively produced the pilot. All right, so I sat down to watch this, and because I saw the trailer and it kind of hooked me. The opening scene is a hook. Basically, it starts and it's dark. There's a little bit of a twist to the beginning. It's a flashback. But watching past the first 5 minutes was a little bit rough. In the show, you get your basic dose of angsty teen mean girl cattiness, teens trying to sleep with teachers, and rude body commentary, as well as, the standard cursing that could have been left out that doesn't really add anything to the script. Paired with really kitschy, notice I said kitschy, I did not say catchy, kitschy music. And then the whole thing, it just seems kind of desperate, putting all of those things together. High school is so poorly portrayed in TV and in movies. So standout star Marlo Kelly is probably the one to watch here, although she got on my nerves. She was mean, telling girls to keep their thigh gaps. So run harder, work harder, keep that thigh gap. And it just is like, what is TV teaching people? Why can't we just have a TV drama that focuses on something wholesome instead of telling girls that they have to sleep with their teachers to be interesting? Honestly, it's dangerous. I mean, we had Gilmore Girls. I was going to say, can we just have a nice teen drama that focuses on a teen trying to navigate her life, trying to pick a college major, something that isn't outlandish, that makes people think, oh, you have to murder someone, you have to sleep with the teacher, you have to do drugs, get drunk every night, be a jerk to get ahead, to have a memorable teen experience. It's just not true. So I'm at the point in my life where I'm well past my teen years, and I can kind of look back and roll my eyes at the haze that was high school. So I'll probably continue to watch it, if not for the train wreck qualities, then for the genre. Apparently, it's a crime drama, so everything's good in the small Midwestern suburbia until a shocking event kind of rocks the town. And to give a little bit of background without giving too much away, the first scene is there's two best friends in the show, and it says in the summary, the girls' friendship is put to the test when a new coach arrives. So the head cheerleader and her best friend, the cheer assistant captain or whatever it's called, and when the coach arrives, she knocks the head cheerleader, the captain, out, and the best friend, who is the co-captain or whoever's below the captain of the cheerleading squad, she is moved up. And in the first scene, that kind of present day, the best friend is driving in her hands. She's getting blood all over her car. She has blood on her hands, and she's going through her phone, looking at pictures of her best friend, the former captain of the cheerleading squad, and she has blood all over her hands. So it definitely hooks you. So their new coach comes in, and crap goes down, you know. I'm assuming a falling out between the girls, but it's all about kind of the power struggle and, you know, what teen girls will do to stay on top. In this specific episode, one of the first things that they say is there's a certain dangerousness to the boredom of teenage girls, and dude, I agree. So this show is nothing if it's not entertaining and a little bit cringy, but I'll probably keep watching. I'll probably tune in for the second episode. So that's Dare Me by Meg Abbott. It is now airing on the Lifetime channel, so the Lifetime Movie Network. Check it out. So next up, we're going to talk a little bit about Tiffany Haddish. She's had a couple of really great comedy specials come out in the past couple of years, and some funny movies. I love her. She's one of my favorite comedians. So we'll talk a little bit about her new comedy special, Black Mitzvah, airing on Netflix right now. So stay right here with us. We'll be right back with the GSMC TV podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the GSMC TV podcast. Last time we talked about Lifetime drama Dare Me, and we're going to talk a little bit about Tiffany Haddish and her new Netflix comedy special, Black Mitzvah. So, Tiffany Haddish, for those of you who don't know, she's a comedian, and she's steadily been, rising to fame. She worked really hard between the years of 2005 and 2015, and she was even on That's So Raven, which I didn't know until I just looked it up, so I'm going to have to go back and watch that episode. So I first saw her in Girls Trip, co-starring Regina Hall, Queen Latifah, and even Jada Pinkett Smith. And some pretty big names. She played Dina in Girls Trip, the kind of crazy friend. And basically the story is three girls, and they were in a little group called the Flossie Posse. And after the character that plays Regina Hall gets cheated on. They all come together and go to the Essence Festival in New Orleans, and chaos ensues. So that was her real breakout role. It seemed like she became a star overnight. People kind of relate it to like the Jenny McCarthy thing, where she just overnight shot up into existence. So from that, shortly after that, she came out with She Ready from the Hood to Hollywood, her first comedy special, and that kind of went over her background in the foster care system and kind of, growing up Jewish, being placed in with a Hispanic family and learning Spanish, learning how to sew, and just kind of where she came from. She told stories about her time in the system and early on in her career and kind of like making it as a star. And she told one of my favorite stories from She Ready was when she was on the at recess, and they had tetherball, the tetherball court story, and how the girl was teasing her for not having a mommy or a daddy, and wouldn't let her play tetherball because she didn't have a mother or father. And so she got herself ready for days, and then she went up and hit the tetherball, kind of like confronted her bully and got the shit beat out of her. That's what she said. So that's one of my favorite stories from She Ready. But she came up with another stand-up special, Black Mitzvah, and this one definitely ups the ante a little bit. As soon as I saw it was on there, I pressed play. I think I watched it as soon as I saw it. I didn't take time to come back. I just sat down and watched it. And she's definitely upped the ante from her last special. So Black Mitzvah is kind of her passage into adulthood, she says, because she is now a full-grown woman who just turned 40. So she raps a whole song. And it's the typical plate-breaking song in every Jewish, like wedding or bar mitzvah, the one where you put your hands around, dance in a circle. And she comes out in a chair held up by two guys. It's super extra. But it's awesome because she totally deserves it. And she is so humble, but she's funny, and it fits her pretty well. So in the special, she talks more about the foster care system and being raised Jewish. She talks about working with Kevin Hart, being close with Kevin Hart, because she did a couple of movies. She did Night School with Kevin Hart. And she talks about the success she's found as a female black comedian, raising herself and kind of, teaching herself things. She didn't really have parents. She was bounced around in the system, and she stays so humble and so, she stays optimistic, and her persistence is really what I love most about her. It kind of puts into perspective, it's all about how you look at things. So she also talks about failure. She talks about absolutely bombing her New Year's Eve set in 2018. So, and she goes into that a little bit more. After winning an Emmy, she went out partying all night, stayed out till 7 a.m., and then woke up super hungover and bombed her New Year's Eve set in New Year's Eve 2018, which is something I would have paid to see. Not her bombing, but a New Year's Eve show. That would have been amazing. And she talks about, because she bombed and because people were actually talking about it, Kevin Hart called her and said, you made it. They're talking about you, but that's essentially because you made it. And just, I love everything she does because she shows you that failure is not the end, and her self-deprecating humor is funny. And people are always saying, don't self-deprecate, don't be so down on yourself. But there's a certain art in self-deprecating humor and commiseration, if you will. It kind of, whenever you can commiserate with somebody and get down on yourself, it's kind of like, it doesn't take you over necessarily. like, if you can laugh at yourself, you're a step up in the world. And I think self-deprecating humor has become kind of a staple in our culture right now. And, comedians, self-deprecating humor, I find that to be the most funny thing. If you can laugh at yourself and make fun of yourself, But she's so personable, and I watch everything she puts out because her comedy is it's like a celebration, because she wasn't born from a rich family, and she didn't grow up with a mom and dad, and she slept in her car. She went through times where she didn't have a car. She was poor. She was in the foster care system. Her mommy and daddy didn't want her, and she says this not as a detriment, but as, look what I did, look what you can do. And I love watching her because she's inspiring, and she's persevered so much. So even though I watched this special already, I want to watch it again with my partner to see what he thinks, because I watched it and I was cracking up so hard. I watched it by myself, so I really want to watch it with him and see what he thinks. So the show isn't structured per se. It's pretty loose. She's not stiff in her comedy. She flows from one topic to the other without getting too hung up on timing, and you can tell that because in the comedy she has a little hang up with her mic pack, and they make it into a bit. I'm not sure if it was already a bit, but it's made into a bit, and it's super funny. They sweep the stage and kind of touch up her makeup, and you really you see that she has made it. And for fans like me who have been following her for a couple of years, it's really great to see, because she deserves everything she's getting. She never fails to crack me up. She's just so real. So real. I'll follow her for wherever she goes in her career. I love her. All right, so coming up, we're going to talk about The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina Part 3. And then a little bit later in the show, we'll talk about John Mulaney and the Sack Lunch Bunch, which I got to watch last night. And what a journey. What an experience. So we'll talk about that stuff when we come back.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now, don't bother, what's hot on Netflix, and everything in between. That's gsmcpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Hey guys, welcome back to the GSMC TV podcast. We're going to talk a little bit about Sabrina, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. So, in 2018, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, the live TV adaptation for Netflix, was released. Positive reviews. Kiernan Shipka was a dream, portraying Sabrina. And I remember watching the whole series through and not knowing that there was a companion series that came out around Christmas. So the first part of the series came out October 2018. Really great. The story centers around a teenage witch, Sabrina, half human, half witch, and she has to decide whether or not she wants to be a witch or a human mortal. And I'm not going to give away what she chooses, but it goes through, her journey going to school, starting her dark education while trying to keep her magic a secret from her friends. And whenever you compare the two there was a live action, also a TV show, in the early 2000s, Adventures of Sabrina the Teenage Witch. It was lighter, and it definitely didn't. It wasn't dark. It was a kind of a kids' teen kind of show. This is definitely dark. They talk about Satan a lot and evil, and they go into demons and dark arts and stuff. So the second part was released January 24th, 2020. So around Christmas, New Year's. So originally the series was intended to be a companion series to Riverdale, but in 2017 it got moved to Netflix. So Netflix got the rights and it became a straight to series order. All of it came out at one time and 2 seasons were immediately booked. So they film in British Columbia, Vancouver, and both parts of the first season were shot back to back. The show is so refreshing. I love Kiernan Shipka, Ross Lynch is in it, Lucy Davis, Chance Perdomo, Michelle Gomez, Jess Sinclair, Tati Gabrielle, Richard Coyle, as well as a whole bunch of other people. And I like the fact that it's dark because it keeps that kind of, Halloween feel to it. It's almost, people have been saying it's too dark. They've gotten so into the demonic, they talk a lot about the Dark Lord and the Church of Night. The show deals with, possession, but at the same time, it's also cute and it's light and it's, you want to consume it, Actually, the show got in trouble for using, a statue of Satan in the show. Like they got in trouble because, the people who follow that religion, they were upset with the portrayal of their, mascot or whatever. So, Sabrina, the third part is set to air, it's set to finish filming in February 2020. So it'll probably wrap and come out to Netflix, in May 2020. So for now, let's talk a little bit about Shipka, and we'll get back into the kind of, summary of the show. So Kiernan Shipka, she's an American actress. Now she's best known for her role as Sabrina in the Netflix series. But before she did Sabrina, she was Sally Draper in Mad Men. She's been acting since she was 5 months old. So she made her television debut on ER at 5 months old as a baby. And she started doing commercial, print, and modeling, and then joined. She didn't do much, small roles, but then she joined Mad Men's cast, and she won the Screen Actors Guild for Outstanding Performance by an Ensemble. So she's quite the Powerball. She was 10 years old when she played Sally Draper, and she played it so well that she won Outstanding Guest Actress. She won an Emmy, and she went on to the end. She was a guest star, and then she was upgraded to series regular at season 4. She got the part after 2 auditions. So she's been doing this for a while. She did Flowers in the Attic in 2014, adapted from the book. Pretty dark stuff. Pretty dark. And then a dual role in Oz Perkins' horror film, The Black Coat's Daughter. So in 2014, she was named one of Time's 25 most influential teens of 2014, and this was before she even did Sabrina. And so 20 actors to watch who are under 20, definitely. So then, 4 years later, in 2018, January, she ended up starring, it was announced she would be starring in Chilling Adventures of Sabrina based on the comic series from the Archie comics. And then that was released in October. So now I think it's on Netflix, she is starring in Let It Snow. So it's a Christmas romantic comedy. I never got around to watching it. I'm not really big on Christmas movies. And then finally she did the Silence horror movie in Stanley Tucci's The Silence, and she learned sign language for that. And she's just holding her own in the film world. So a little bit more on Sabrina. This show is consistently keeping me on my seat. Although it is a dark show, the first season is lighter in the way it focuses on Sabrina's relationship with her friends and family and Harvey, and it focuses on her dark baptism. So for a little bit, the world is, light and dark. They're not, nobody knows about what's going on with her yet. And towards the end of the first season, everybody's kind of like, okay, she's a witch. And the second season, or I guess it's the second part of the first season, is just totally different. So there's twists and turns, and all of the characters kind of get into darker themes. There's a transgender role on the show, and I think that's really poignant. There's a young black woman on the film who plays Roz, who struggles with losing her vision. Harvey's brother, and there's themes of abuse, there's themes of sexuality, but presented in a good way. They're not vulgar or crass at all. The show is all around versatile. There's witchcraft, there's LGBTQ themes, and it focuses on friendship, on relationships, on it's everything. It easily kept my attention. And I'm really excited for part 3. So check out The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. Parts 1 and 2 are out right now, and part 3 is set to debut spring, summer of 2020. So when we come back, we're going to wrap up talking a little bit about John Mulaney's The Sack Lunch Bunch, the kind of nod back to 80s, 90s, even a little bit 70s children's TV shows. So stay right here. We'll be right back with the GSMC TV podcast.
Golden State Media Concepts Sci-Fi Podcast. Together we dive into the world of sci-fi and science fiction. From episodes of Star Trek, Star Wars, to The Walking Dead, Resident Evil, all the hot new science fiction movies from the backdoors of Marvel or DC. The Golden State Media Concepts Sci-Fi Podcast. You'll never look at science fiction the same way again.
Hey guys. Alright, so last time we talked about Sabrina a little bit, and I'm going to jump back into the comedy world very quickly and talk a little bit about John Mulaney, a little bit about his work, and something I just watched that he put out recently called John Mulaney and the Sack Lunch Bunch. So let's dive right into that. So John Mulaney, he's an American stand-up comedian. He also acts, writes, and produces. He is best known for his work as a writer on SNL, and recently as a stand-up comedian with his specials. He's done The Top Part, New in Town, The Comeback Kid, and Kid Gorgeous, for which he actually won an Emmy for Outstanding Writing for Variety Special back in 2018. He created and wrote for a short time the Fox sitcom Mulaney, although it really didn't take off. He's risen prominently in the last couple of years. He also performed as a character called George St. Geegland, in a comedic duo. He works a lot with Nick Kroll, and he voiced Andrew Glauberman in Big Mouth. He's also been on Broadway. He was on Hello on Broadway in 2016 through 2017, so he can sing. He's funny, he can sing, he can write, he can act. And recently, before his specials, he also just recently voiced Peter Porker, Spider-Ham, in the animated Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So, John Mulaney, I'm sure you guys have heard about him lately. He's been everywhere, I feel like. I've been seeing him a lot, and it took me a little bit to get on the John Mulaney train. Initially, I didn't really find his, work super, funny. I found him a little bit dry, but he's apparently been in the comedy business for a long time. He's been working for 17 years. He's been on Conan, Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, Comedy Central. But what really caught my eye was the Sack Lunch Bunch. So in 2019, when Netflix got all of its new titles, Mulaney released John Mulaney and the Sack Lunch Bunch. And the thing that got my attention, I was scrolling through Facebook, as I do, reporting on social media and TV, and one of my friends in my past theater circle said, "Can I just get the sheet music to noodles, a plain plate of noodles with a little bit of butter?" And I thought, what is that? People are always coming up with interesting alternative music to use in auditions, and I thought, okay, maybe this is a new song cycle I haven't heard of. And I looked it up, and sure enough, it's a John Mulaney special, and it came up, a music video, and it's John Mulaney. He's coming to sit down at a table. He said, "Hey guys, so apparently my therapist is off duty for the month," and immediately I was like, this is funny, dry humor, self-deprecating dry humor. So I tuned in. I kept watching it, and this kid, he stands up and he essentially sings this whole song about how he doesn't want to be a bother whenever he goes out to eat with his family, but the only thing he really wants is just a plain plate of noodles with a little bit of butter. And he talks about how he just loves macaroni so much, and I don't think I've ever identified with anything more in my life. Like, the whole time I was like, I feel you, kid. They'll be talking about me on my wedding day saying, what does the bride want to eat? And I just want macaroni, And if it's not a certain shape or texture of macaroni, I don't want it. So I thought that was super funny. So I tuned in and I watched the whole special last night, and it was so cute. It was very nostalgic. So earlier on in the special, John Mulaney says, it's very conversational. It's a lot like Sesame Street. It reminded me a lot of Sesame Street. He said, I recently watched TV for kids and I really just didn't like it. So he cast all of these kids to kind of be this Sack Lunch Bunch and sit on a set that looked a lot like Sesame Street. It was his own thing. And he said, so I'm going to make my own series. I'm going to make my own special. It's a show for kids written by adults, and it is off the wall. So he says the show was inspired by Mr. Rogers, Sesame Street, The Electric Company, Free to Be, You and Me, and 3-2-1 Contact. So it's him with 15 kids, like ages 8 to 13. And he has a couple of, guests, Andre DeShields, David Byrne, Richard Kind, Natasha Lyonne, and Jake Gyllenhaal. And it's just off of the wall, like fever dreamish, Rotten Tomatoes, for some reason, gave it a 100. I feel like it didn't deserve that much. Even John Mulaney was like, this will be a hit or miss. He says this in the show. He says, it'll be a hit or miss, but if it's a miss, we can just call it irony. And I think that's really funny. One of my favorite songs that they did was they sang a song about some kid's new grandpa, or my grandma's new boyfriend, Paul. It's adult humor written and performed by kids, and it was funny, it was really funny. It kind of, spiraled into what am I watching? It was a great thing to just keep on in the background, and it kept my attention. It was super cute. One of the standouts for me was Jake Gyllenhaal. I liked that one, and the songs are just off the wall. But I feel like they really dived into the existential mind of children, because one of the songs was "Do Flowers Grow at Night?" So the psychology of a child is, as they go through the stages of learning and development, new levels are unlocked, and sometimes when you can't see things, you wonder if they're real. And so one of the kids was singing about, "Do flowers grow at night?" I don't see them, so I don't know if they grow. And I thought that was super funny. So the show it's very interesting. It's very nostalgic. Something to definitely, sit down and just watch through. You'll probably get a couple giggles out of it. I know I did. A good little New Year's Eve treat. So that's John Mulaney and the Sack Lunch Bunch. At the very least, if you don't go and watch it, just go look up, a plain plate of noodles with a little bit of butter, and see what you think. And then if you get a little get some giggles out of that one, then go watch it. It's funny. It's dry, but it is ironic. I like descending into madness personally. I like things that I can't quite understand. I like the whole irony as humor thing. It's funny to me to not quite know what's going on. That's why I was so intrigued with Cats, because as it spirals more and more into madness, that kind of stuff really makes me laugh and catches my attention, because it's just goofy. And I think it goes along with the whole self-deprecating thing. You gotta laugh at the stupid stuff. So check it out. It's on Netflix right now. All right. When we get back, we're going to be discussing shows that are now 20 years old, shows that premiered in 2000, and go on a walk through memory lane. Stay right here with the GSMC TV podcast.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America's Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America's Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America's Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Hey guys, Happy New Year. So for our last segment, our wild card segment, we're going to be talking about TV series that were released in 2000, so 20-year-old TV shows that are having their 20th birthday this year. And some of these I've watched, some of these I haven't watched. It's more of a list, little nostalgia for you. So first, should we go backwards or forwards? Maybe we should we'll just do some highlights. So one of them I did watch. Most people probably did. Dora the Explorer. I didn't know that this premiered in 2000, but this is the Spanish-American TV show, Dora the Explorer. Along with her friend Monkey Boots, Dora goes on adventures, featuring characters such as the Map, Diego, and Mom and Dad. Where are we going, Dora? I don't know. Don't ask me. Survivor, so the reality show Survivor, premiered in 2000, and that's still going today, so I'd say that that's, pretty long running. I don't know what the longest running show is. I think it's MASH. But Survivor, the contestant reality show where the contestants are stranded in a remote location with the clothes they have, and little more than that, and then the survivor of the contest takes home $1 million, and it's more than just a surviving show. It's kind of like a strategy thing. Even Stevens and Malcolm in the Middle, so those old comedic, family shows. I watched Even Stevens more than I watched Malcolm in the Middle. I went on a Shia LaBeouf binge earlier this month, or last month, I guess, because it's January 1st. And that was, Even Stevens had Shia LaBeouf in the title role as Lewis, and just kind of showed his crackhead adventures with his family and friends. So I liked that. And then Holes, shortly after that, and the Even Stevens movie, he was in a whole set of things. CSI, Crime Scene Investigation, so that stopped. That started in 2000, stopped in 2015, and so that was the police team that were in Las Vegas, and it wasn't any specific, unit. It was just the basic CSI. So Lawrence Fishburne was in that one. Stopped in 2015. Curb Your Enthusiasm. There is Dark Angel with Jessica Alba, which didn't really last that long. Andromeda. My Family with Robert Lindsay. Coupling. Queer as Folk. Doctors. Walking the Dead, not to be confused with The Walking Dead. Yu-Gi-Oh! Premiered in 2000. Aqua Teen Hunger Force. I didn't really watch this one. I really wasn't into Adult Swim that much. My siblings were, and they forced me to watch it, but I felt like it was darker than I would have liked. I was a pretty innocent child. Like I said before, I was a square. I was born a square, and I'll always be a square. So Family Guy, all that stuff, wasn't really my jam. But I do know of it because, I grew up with siblings. And then number 1 is Gilmore Girls. So Rory and her mom. I started this series. I got the box set and I started it the year after I graduated high school. So I was super late on the train. It only lasted for 7 years, but through the whole 7 years, it built such a fan following. So basically, it centers around 2 Loreleis. So Lorelai is the mom, and then her daughter's name is Lorelai too, but they call her Rory. And the mom, it's a really light, cute family show. And the mom had her when she was pretty young, and it kind of chronicles Rory's life with her mom and her. It's just them two. There's no dad, no boyfriend. Occasionally there's Luke, the barista baker guy, but it pretty much follows them, follows their lives in Connecticut. And the series finale of Gilmore Girls was one for the books. Very highly grossed watching. That doesn't really make sense. A lot of watchers. So that's pretty much an overview. Honorable mentions. Jackass. I really liked that one. I still watch Jackass, but I mostly watch the movies. I don't really watch the show. Clifford, the Big Red Dog. Big Brother. That's a pretty popular one, and that one's still going too. So 20 years. And As Told by Ginger. I used to watch this one. This one was on Nickelodeon, so it was like a cartoon. And for a cartoon, it was surprisingly deep. They talked about, being adopted, and they had this one sex education episode that was kind of awkward, but I look back on it and I thought, hard-hitting stuff. So that's all I have for this cast. I hope everybody has had a safe and happy new year. Live it up, take a nap. Don't start your resolutions until the 2nd of January, because you will, you most likely, don't put all that pressure on yourself. So, as always, if you liked the cast, comment, subscribe, go on our Instagram, visit our Facebook, leave us a review. That helps us out. And as always, keep listening and tune in next week for the next GSMC TV podcast. Have a great day.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Television Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.